Yeah, you look it.
You must be Ringo. Look, darling. Johnny Ringo. The deadliest pistoleer since Wild Bill, they say. What do you think, darling? Should I hate him?
You don't even know him.
No, that's true, but I don't know. There's just something about him. Something around that.
I'd rather be fishing. The mouse is acting strangely, but one should take a vacation when Pastor Paul takes a vacation, so as one is not triggered out of their vacation by what Pastor Paul posts when he's not on vacation. Welcome to this episode, the Horcrux Horchrist. Oh boy, what? Yeah.
You're traveling through another dimension, a dimension of not only sound and vision, but that of a hive mind, a journey into a virtual land of both shadow and substance, a place where you can embody breaking the fourth wall, whose boundaries are only limited by one's imagination. Somewhere in between agency and a rabbit hole of saving throws, welcome to the Virtually Not Alone Zone.
Branding up here where the overlays are. Hey, there it is. Okay, and then it's your solid now. You got frozen out right after you told us about the men's group thing you just came back from.
Yeah, I was driving, and so it's a bad place. Yeah, I thought about the driving. I'm like, but I want to say something, so. But apparently God had other plans, so.
MJ, shout you out. The mic is muted. So other plans such as the saving throws we do here on the show. The cows know that branding hurts sometimes. But then, you get returned to the right farm. Survival, social, wisdom, or heart, choose! Survivalists. At the 6. Socialists with a 10. Lovers of wisdom. 7. Heart folks, the number of transformation, 11. And 9. Yo! So I woke up this morning only to discover Chad had done this. Chad!
What up? Howdy, rascal.
The shirt exists. The one exists.
Oh, shit. We're not being in reality, in the here and now. And it's like, and then I started thinking about my attention being stretched and pulled like a sponge, and how like sanity will fall out of the pores because they open up. And
sanity will fall out of the pores of my stretched attention. Now what stretches the attention? Things that are worth caring about. And what happens when your attention is stretched by these things that are worth caring about is you lose the capacity to care about the things you can actually do anything about via your stretched attention.
Yeah. And my spirit gets sick, and I
Isn't that the meta crisis of sorts?
We do not believe that we are beings primarily motivated by lust for power and the desire to dominate. We do not regard ourselves or our fellow citizens as destructive forces living in an alien relationship to the pristine and pure natural world.
I don't know. Reminds me of me. No, I'm sure of it. I hate him.
He's drunk.
We posit instead that men and women of faith and decisiveness, made in the image of God, can arrange their affairs with care and attention so that abundance and opportunity could be available for all. We hope, and I think we truly hope, and in our wiser moments truly pray. We hope to encourage the development of an alternative pathway uphill out of both tyranny and the desert, stabilizing, unifying, and compelling to men and women of sound judgment and free will. Welcome aboard the Ark.
There's, I think, another way to defend against the dark arts. A lot of my suggestions are going to be very basic sort of things, but practicing your manners. I had learning how to be helpful in the right way. There's another student in the class, he's very defiant. He's like, if he took a personality quiz, he'd probably...
Kinds of people that jump into this little corner. There's some guys like me, and maybe you, maybe some other guys that have a decent family, people that like to have a good embodied social life. But then there's a lot of people that don't.
This moment was especially special for me because it was a time back when I had first retreated into Jumpgate that we had these these offshoot forums set up. And like the griefers from the game found us on those offshoot forums. And I was like I finally find like a little corner of the internet and you had to come piss on it. And like those emotions resurfaced while I was watching this morning. Thanks, Chad.
Right. They're just watching this and wanting to find something like that. So then I want to figure out ways to figure out healthy transitions. Yeah. Between this bridges. Online world. Yeah, exactly. The bridges of meaning. But an embodied bridge. To bridge from the virtual world into a healthy embodied world.
Rather than further into the little corner or metaverse.
Exactly. And I don't want to necessarily draw people out of the embodied world into here.
Yeah, right.
There's already something established to draw people out of an unhealthy embodied world here.
Right.
And I want to create a pathway back out of here, maybe not completely out, but towards a healthy embodied world again.
Yeah. I don't know, emasculation of men in our society, and we've become so, we're so afraid of the patriarchy or, malevolent masculinity, toxic
In vino veritas.
Age quod
Creda Judaea sotella non ego.
Eventus stultorum magister.
In pace requiescat.
Come on, boys. We don't want any trouble in here, not in any language.
That's Latin, darling. Evidently, Mr. Ringo's an educated man. Now,
Whoop, that's a fumble. That's a fumble there. And then, hey, stop it. And then I wake up to this.
Have this. That's education, like a little Hi, this is Paul. This is going to be kind of a hodgepodge of things I ran across this morning and things that have my attention. There's the Jordan Peterson document of the ARC, the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship, and the video that he put out to introduce that, and the Peugeot Hurwitz video, and a few other things. But I want to start with Brett Anderson's little quote that
No, Chad. No. I don't know that I could be.
that he put out on Twitter. I don't know where it's from, so if you know where it's from, just drop it in the comment section. There is a human being who has turned out badly, who does not have enough spirit to enjoy it, but just enough education to realize this. Just does not have enough spirit to enjoy it. Enjoy what? Enjoy his spirit, that spirit that he's been given. Does not have enough spirit to enjoy it, but just enough education to realize this. He is bored, disgusted, and despises himself. Having inherited some money, he is deprived even of the last comfort, the blessings of work, self-forgetfulness in daily labor. Such a person who is fundamentally ashamed of his existence eventually ends up in a state of habitual revenge, will to revenge.
Oh, I really hate him. What's it, Johnny? I hear he's real fast.
What do you suppose he finds necessary, absolutely necessary, to give himself, in his own eyes, the appearance of superiority over more spiritual people? Now, we're going to have to deal with that word spiritual. So the quest for a spiritual home is the theme of the conference coming up in May. The links are below.
The links are below all. I didn't bother today. Anacino!
Below if you want to sign up for it in Chino, California. And so much of what we wrestle with is what is this word spiritual? How do we use it? What do we mean by it? People use it all over the place, and if you press them on it, they seem to have very little understanding.
Allow me to assist you. Spiritual is spirit because spirit is breath and breath is life, right? God breathed life unto us and it's spirit. We are inspirited beings. Inspirited beings.
Understanding of exactly what they're trying to say, even though it seems they're quite earnest in saying that it's of ultimate value. What do you suppose he finds necessary, absolutely necessary, to give himself in his own eyes the appearance of superiority over more spiritual people and to attain the pleasure of an unaccomplished revenge, at least in his own imagination? Always morality. You can bet on that. Always big moral words. Always the rub-a-dub of justice, wisdom, holiness, and virtue. I'd love to know what that quote is from. I might be a
For the Deadwood dandies in the Hive Mind chat, do you happen to recognize the guy on the far right?
Embarrassed by whoever he says it from, but it's an amazing quote, and obviously the quote could mean a lot of different things if embedded in other places. So much of what we wrestle with is in fact what the book of Ecclesiastes in the NIV translation says. He has placed eternity in our hearts.
With his breath!
Dostoevsky's notes from the underground figures here that we imagine that once we could make our biological skin-wrapped entities sufficient with food, sufficient with security, then we, like this giant gator that I once saw in a Florida gator.
No, you're gator. No. When we have enough food and we have enough security, we have mouse utopia. Not your gator, Paul. Not cat.
Hard to see why the security we crave would teach us to rest our hearts in this world and oppose an obstacle to our return to God. In that sense, for Lewis, God is our home. A few moments of happy love, a landscape, a symphony.
Stuck inside this fleeting moment, tucked away where no one owns it, wrapped up in a haste and by mistake got thrown away.
Drinks are on me.
So I posit to you that the difference between Doc Holliday and Johnny Ringo is the difference between the Horcrux and the Horchrist. And God willing, we'll get there. But let's move on now, shall we, to the trigger phrase, which probably happens around the 33rd minute, but we'll go to 31. Oh, to discuss this wound over on the bowel network. I don't know where in the video he says it, but like Kale was busy scheduling with me by email and then suddenly stopped, and now he's going on with Paul on Thursday. That hurt.
Kale, oh, they are worse than the mainstream media guys who just call him an alt-right monster. So, but I thought, Nate first and then Kale really said something good. Now, of course, if he has a section in his video called "The Good News," I'm simply going to have to listen to it. Jordan, as somebody else pointed out on Twitter, Jordan has been taking any and everyone on, in a sense. Let's see, where am I at here?
I commented under this beautiful video here. Since leaving the place owned by the guy in the ball suit, Papa Peterson's behavior there seems like mostly calculated trigonometry. The absolute value of attention has no concern for such things as positive or negative. Both increase mimetic gravitas.
A couple interesting things arose in the thread. Where is it? Oh. Among his events is I hear that Jordan said Peterson eats with sinners. Joseph Sciambra, who's a very interesting person.
Special thanks to Pastor Paul in this video for black mirroring to me how horrible it is for when you read your Twitter on a video stream.
He dares to criticize the Catholic Church, then combined with the power of deep church and the deep state came after him. Giordano Bruno, New Jersey, says people don't like him, but his podcast is consistently in the top 75 podcasts across all genres. And I think that's partly Cale's point of why people don't like him. And so now with this ARC, now if you look at who the organizing committee, organizing spelled in the British sort of way, many of these people, I don't know who they are. Some of them have...
This cast of characters is part of the Hegelian dialectic, which is to say they make the WEF, and the global reset, and then they make the ARC, and then they synthesize it to one that's way closer to this side than you ever would have expected. But
that's in many ways the background for this arc he is looking to build.
And this is the statement of vision and invitation. It starts with, I'll tell you what. It starts with bonus saves. Bonus savings throws today. Thank you. Thank you for the notion. Survival, social, wisdom, or heart against the mind control that follows, because above all else, Jordan Peterson is a rhetorical wizard. Choose! Oh, survival is almost with a 20, but it rolls to a 15. Socialists with a 7. Lovers of wisdom also a 7. Hard folks, watch you guys, he might cry. He's got a chew on you. And you got the chambers of the heart for the indigo folks. the structure of the proclamation or the vision statement, first of all. So when I wrote my book, Maps of Meaning, I analyzed the structure of redemptive stories. And your life is a redemptive story if you're fortunate, because you have a lot of trouble in your life, and yet...
And you're really hoping that your life is a redemptive arc. And so you want to lay the mimetic foundation nice and thick from within the belly of the whale. From within the belly of the...
You plow through and take care of that trouble, and that's the story of redemption. And the typical redemption...
And even just framing it that way, your life is...
Won't you say to me...
a story of overcoming obstacles and fulfilling expectations, let's say, and achieving a better space, a productive space for more.
Looking at this recent, let's say, domination of a certain kind of storytelling.
And this, of course, is my conversation. I've played it a number of times with Dr. Jim about Westerns, and I do want to get more into Westerns. I've got a podcast from The Plow about Jesus and John Wayne. That was really...
The reason he's pulling up this whole thing is because he's making the play that Jordan Peterson is some sort of Clint Eastwood caricature. I mean, figurehead. And the thing about that is his job, because, like, to the extent that his attention is coming from the Jordan Peterson funnel, he is like the banner holder of Jordan Peterson's a good guy. And, like, I try to undermine that all the time, and he still tolerates me, but that's his job. He's the banner holder. And it's like he did this the field of people holding banners, and they gather around the different banners, and so that's his job, is to hold up this banner. And he's setting Jordan Peterson up like the Clint Eastwood guy, but they got their metaphors all wrong, so I'm going to straighten it out here in this fabulous Horcrux and Horchrist live stream video. Accompanied by the Hive Mind chat, starring Third Wave Red Pill. And Magic just left. See you, Magic. Have a good luck. Hey, there's Dr. Lenny time. Does anyone else who Horcrux IRL for realsies? For realsies. Kissy lips. Kissy.
Really good.
And I'm seeing that something.
Westerns that I've been watching and the Westerns that I'm thinking about. It's a rather pessimistic view of the people in the town, because they, of course, will not back him. And he throws down the star, and he's disgusted by them, and he walks off. In a lot of ways, this Jordan Peterson move is very Western-like.
I feel that's the rather go fishing I was facing this morning. It feels like that. Feels like that. I'm not sure exactly where it's coming from, but it's an internal struggle lately.
In that he's this man from northern Alberta wearing a rather Western tailored. I mean, talk about the college professor from the east, the herringbone tweed with sort of the Western lapels. That's
now, despite the fact that Pastor Paul has to do the banner holding, he's also happy to point out the set and setting of the mimetic wizardry being employed for those of you who have ears to hear, when that he also sees with his eyes what you see.
That's kind of who he is here. And that's very much sort of the mission that he's on. And so maps of meaning, narrative, the hero story with a generative future.
Redemption story is something like there's a stable state, a stable city, a stable family, a stable plan, and then that's disrupted by some cataclysmic event, the arrival of the barbarians, the entry of...
Now, the stable, you live in a stable, because you're cattle. Sorry. Come on, Mouse. All right, I'm going to go get the other battery. Just let me hit play one more time. Come on. No, don't.
Of an interloper into a marriage, for example, some...
I can't mute it. I'll be right back.
There is a descent into an intermediary period of chaos.
Now, this is a deeply Christian, this is the U-shaped story, okay? If Jess is here to talk about that just from this little corner, it's the U-shaped story because you have a stable order, you have the loss of that stable order, and you have the resumption, reclamation, redemption of that stable order.
And then there's the reestablishment of order that's of a higher order as a consequence. So you sort of go through life like this, and hopefully, order, chaos, order, chaos, order, chaos. And hopefully, as you do that, the order gets deeper and more profound, and you get to be better at mediating between order and chaos. And this is an order-chaos story, and it opens up with a description of the current state of order. And we called that the good news. So I'm going to read this, as I said, and comment on it. Life.
New battery is not new batterying, because it really was an old battery, not a new battery. And now we are doomed in the middle of a live stream with only keyboard controls, if at best. And to use the keyboard controls, I have to stop fiddling with the mouse. Oh wait, we have order restored. And hopefully, it's to a new higher order. Hopefully it's to a new higher order. Remember, Embody.
There is no agency. We want
what's best Remember it. This way you should see. We walk past. That hypno close makes the cat leave the room. Adapt! Adapt! The mouse is dead. Long live the mouse. Okay, so now we're getting into the major fumbles and whatnot. I guess I'll just let him read it for a while and then no, not that one, this one.
Has improved dramatically over the past few centuries for almost everyone, everywhere, at an ever-accelerating rate. Far more people are thriving on our planet than we could have imagined even mere decades ago. We live longer, are increasingly and globally literate, educated and connected, and enjoy unparalleled access to fresh water, food, energy, and resources. Now that's quite the miracle, because back in the 1960s, when we started to become aware of our increasing industrial power and ability to operate at a planetary level, let's say, we started to get worried about such things as whether, well, we were going to overpopulate the planet, and we were going to run out of food, and we were going to pollute everything into devastation, and the whole civilizational. All
right, so this whole section here is, here are the benefits we've had from living under the rule of Set. Okay? Well, here. Let's see what Paul says. All right, no. Here, we'll go here.
And Ehrlich lost famously. And what's happened actually is that we have way more people now than we thought we would in the year 2000. We have way more people now than people in 1965 thought would be on the planet in the year 2000, when all the starvation was supposed to hit. And by and large, people are way better off than they've ever been in the history of mankind. About 7 out of 8 billion people now have a reasonable standard of living. It's not luxurious, say by North American standards, but they have enough to eat. They have a certain degree of security, and their children have a certain amount of opportunity. And
how many meaningful relationships do they have in their life? Do they know what's going on with their cousins?
There's still...
There, go back to C.S. Lewis's measure, okay? But of course, all of us, just look at the lives of the wealthiest, supposedly most secure people, the richest of the rich in North America. They still die of cancer. They still suffer from divorce, which, as Peter Kreeft says, is worse than death. They still live in an insecure world, and they still work out their anxieties, whether that be of one political persuasion or another, on the media, trying to motivate the masses, trying to conjure up a massive spiritual body to move in order to achieve a massive spiritual body to motivate the masses, trying to conjure up a massive spiritual body to move in order to achieve whatever thing they're trying to do. And of course,
I did skip a part. I'm bringing back now. Let's see, we're at 46 when we get back. Here.
Is this little corner a paramilitary group? We need uniforms.
So
those are available in all the descriptions besides this one. And hi, Laura. I want to point out that he did bring in Nate Heil into this, and that's Paul Vanderklay's low key cue to you that Jordan Peterson is a Christian anarchist and is really a member of a church already called the Church of Not Following Stupid Rules, of which he is a metropolitan. But the point, but yes, that there we'll play it to the paramilitary group part.
This level, cultural Christianity combined with political conservatism that just gives to a kind of comfortable acceptance of a status quo in our culture that a lot of people would find problematic.
I think Nate put that really well, as he's quoting the other critic.
I'll just summarize it that way.
Yeah, I think that's what he was saying. And on
Yeah.
that note, well, you know, I might actually swing around because my lighting is so weird here. Is this any better?
If we get a little bit more light coming from the window there, that's a little better.
Yeah, it might be better.
It's okay.
Anyway,
you're in shadow. It's fine.
yeah. So, so on that note, I would say that one of the things that was kind of magical about him in those early days was that he wasn't telling people to do anything really specific, and he wasn't funneling them into some kind of single pre-existing movement or institution, right? It was never like, hey, if you like what I'm saying, go join my paramilitary group or something, right? I
think some people actually think that's what he's doing, though.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think my friend would think that, but but some people do, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Is this little corner a paramilitary group? We need uniforms.
So
it would be, actually. Frankly, it would be if I had my way. The paintball for Jesus thing would have taken off, and we would have like well-disciplined groups of men capable of shooting drones down with paintballs and uniforms. Because if you recall from your Game of Thrones programming, they didn't take the religious seriously until they armed themselves again.
So what he had was that kind of magic or charism, if you want to say it that way, that really, really good preachers have. And I think one of the reasons people got so excited about him was that there are a lot of people who have never heard a good sermon before. You know, a sermon that really makes you want to be a better person, and you walk out of church standing up a little straighter and thinking, yeah, I'm going to do the right thing, you know.
They're few and far between, Laura. And from the Hive Mind chat, this odd... Recently, I started stitching all the shards back together. Originally, I keyed everything off a whore, which was a terrible idea. Didn't know she was a whore at the time, obviously. What the fuck, man? I mean,
The list?
Well, howdy, rascal.
Okay, so we're going back to this part.
Summoning a body, a spiritual body, who will play a part in how the country goes. And of course, if this is part of the big hatred and for Donald Trump, you know, the Donald Trump's greatest sin is that he won in many respects. And again, I'm no anybody who knows my politics, not a fan of Donald Trump personally.
Did anyone ever think I was apolitical? I am part of the fifth column supporting the Fifth Amendment, Constitutional Amendment Convention, because I think of the Constitution as the operating software of the government, and we're still on the Windows 95 version because we haven't updated the Constitution, and we need a convention to do it, or it's called the Bloodless Revolution Clause, but everybody that knows what it is scared of it. I've never not been political, sir.
But there it is.
Hundreds of millions of people who have trouble, but we have, especially over the last 20 years, maybe since the Berlin Wall fell and the communists quit wrecking everything they got their hands on, we've moved away from absolute poverty at a pretty decent rate. So, and there's other good news as well. We exist in comparative peace. Violence of every form, from murder to insurrection, is increasingly rare and universally condemned, and fewer people than ever before confront the ravages.
All right. So, like, we've got really safe farms, and that's the upsell of the set situation. I'm gonna skip ahead to the part I'm looking for now. Sorry for any inconvenience.
Well, we've got a fair number of problems, and we're certainly not perfect, but things are a lot better than they might have been, and still labor under conditions of extreme privation. They're absolutely poor. We still organize ourselves less effectively than we might if we were truly wise and prosperous. All right, so You don't have to be a Pollyanna to take optimistic stock of the current situation. You can note that 95% of the world was living in conditions of absolute privation by the UN definition of poverty in 1860, including in the West, and most people simply aren't burdened by that kind of inadequate provision in the modern world. And so that's a pretty good deal. Now, is it sustainable? Well,
sustainability. Back to Lewis's quote, because, well, all of those 8 billion people are going to die one way or another.
Why are we here? What are we doing? What are we surviving for? What are we striving toward? Except to be there for each other alone in the dark.
At one point or another, and, you know, the quest for a spiritual home. Can this world provide such a home? We can talk about that as this theme continues to.
Could Eden provide such a home? What qualifications make a home spiritual, other than like you come in from outside and somebody's baking because they love everybody there? What is the spirit? Could Eden?
The quest for a spiritual home. Can this world provide such a home? We can talk about that as this theme continues to roll in my mind, and I'm hoping to make a bunch of videos. In April, we'll have a conversation with myself, Jonathan Peugeot, John Vervaeke, John Van Donk, and Catherine in anticipation of the conference. And
that's not a good question. The better question is, under what conditions is it optimally sustainable or expanding? That's a better question. Questions are important. So you can say, perhaps you can argue, the foundations are secure and good. We've learned how to act and to conduct ourselves both individually and socially so that true human flourishing is possible on a scale heretofore undreamed of and practically impossible. We put in place systems of governance that are, by historical standards, quite effective. There's been a sequence of absolute technological miracles that have enabled us to feed ourselves.
Speaking of absolute technological miracles, welcome home, Nakama. Welcome home.
We've been able to provide people with access to inexpensive energy, and energy is work, and work is the amelioration of absolute privation, and so that's all pretty damn good. So that's the upside. The realistic.
So our alignment with Set has worked out pretty good in these ways.
Non-naive upside. The challenge, so we might think that's the impending crisis. Despite all this good news, this undeniable progress, a shadow has emerged. An adversarial challenge to this state and process of expanding abundance.
If we're talking Western, someone, the bad guy, has emerged.
An emergent crisis of meaning and purpose. God is dead, or so the story goes, and the future is uncertain. 5 centuries of ascendant, reductionist.
You could hear some of, now Fukuyama, I forget who recently did a thing on Fukuyama.
Okay, so this is unprepared and sloppy, but actually here we'll do it this way. We'll go together. We're on the quest now. This would probably be edited out in other situations, but it's a Grim Grizz live stream, so that's happening. Here's a minute before we do that. Okay. So, what I want to remind everybody I know is in my video, the Woke Water ISIS set. However, more recently it was recursed in the conservative backspike by my friend Chad the Alcoholic on this channel, whose most recent broadcast includes this.
Yeah. No, and I get that. It's kind of like it's don't let the perfect get in the way of the good, or just because.
Now, see, his channel is now called the Friday Morning Nameless, and you can see that commercial here.
Hey there, I'm Chad the Alcoholic, and the creator of the Friday Morning Nameless channel. I'd like to welcome you to join us for the latest and greatest and most up-to-date information about all the things happening in this corner of the internet. I want to thank you for your time and your attention.
This'll be the day that I die. What? This'll be the day that I die. Oh yeah, all that. Before that, am I showing you guys kind of? When we reduce God to the purely transcendent? No. No. Where's the one about me? It's explicitly explaining me to people. Oh, maybe this one. Was it this one? No. Aha! Deconstructing me. It's in here. It's in here.
You guys.
Aha! Here.
Seth.
To explain that to you this way.
She's like the queen of the underworld, right? She's the queen of the hyenas that live out among the death. But okay, anyways, Seth, Osiris, Seth, Isis, and Horus. Here's how the story goes. Osiris is a great king. He established the Egyptian state. You could think about him as the embodiment of Egyptian custom and tradition. He was great when he was.
Or, for the purposes of this exercise, you could think of him as the society constructed by the one Tom Holland wrote about in that book, Dominion.
Was young, but he's not young anymore. He's old, and he's willfully blind. And what that means is that he doesn't see what he could see. He refuses to see what he could see. Why is Osiris old and willfully blind?
I don't know, but it seems to me that it could be that I'm dealing with some old and willfully blind people, and they do not see underneath all these distraction and obfuscation buzzwords that conveniently get you YouTube views, that it's really just ISIS.
Why is Osiris old and willfully blind? Because that's what culture is. It's a paternal.
So in this part, when he's saying why Osiris is old and willfully blind, here's the update on Osiris.
Despite all this good news, this undeniable progress, a shadow has emerged.
Wait, no. Where does he say God is day?
You could hear some of now Fukuyama. I forget who recently did a thing on Fukuyama. Basically, was it Brett Anderson? I don't remember. Yeah, Fukuyama wasn't read quite right, but so often the misreadings of someone can become sort of the mimetic gateway, or even just the public perception of what they mean. And well, the end is history. We have now learned how to manage the economy. We now have energy. We have technology. We have and if this just keeps going, the achievements that we have realized in the last century. Have to pay in mind we did have a couple of world wars in there, and the entire chapter of communism. Then, not to mention what on earth is going on in.
Happy Pi Day, Greek. Good to see you. Good to see you.
China and where that's going to go. But, you know, here in the West, we know how
enlightened certain God is dead, or so the story goes, and the future is uncertain. 5 centuries.
So when he says God is dead here, think Osiris.
Of ascendant, reductionist enlightenment rationality have revealed that this star.
And you can think of that 5 centuries of enlightenment rationality as set.
Spirit that's old and willfully blind, and it's always that way, always that way. And the reason for that is because it's a construction of the dead. The dead aren't alive. They can't, so they're out of date, and they can't update themselves anymore. And you inhabit their corpse. Or he's old and he's willfully blind. He won't look where he knows he should look. He doesn't have the energy, or maybe he doesn't have the spirit. His brother Seth is not a good guy. And Osiris knows it, but he underestimates his malevolence and power. Every stable society is threatened by willful blindness and malevolence, always. Osiris turns a blind eye to Seth. Seth is happy about it. One day waits for Osiris to make a mistake and to be weak, and he attacks him and he chops him up into pieces. And he distributes the pieces across the entire Egyptian state.
You might not recognize it as Seth, but I want to read you something.
No, I don't. No. We've all heard it. We've all heard it. Sets the television. Now, so the eye was on Christ, and the eye. Okay. So Osiris gets. Here, run some more of this for a minute. Okay, we'll do that.
Starkly objective world lacks all intrinsic meaning. A century and a half or more of corrosive cultural criticism has undermined our understanding of and faith in the traditions necessary to unite and guide us.
So there's a double edge there. On one hand, the meaning crisis is very much present, and Dostoevsky's challenge in Tales of the Underground still stands. And beyond that, can this be maintained?
Well, we underwent the scientific revolution, started 500 years ago, say, and it concentrated on delineation of the nature of the objective world. We found out that the heavens were other than what we had presupposed, and that the God we had imagined inhabiting those heavens did not appear in the starkly empty and barren, immense, vast landscape of the cosmos. And we believed that if you were sensible and abandoned your superstitions, that you'd see the world as the cold, dead, mechanistic, inert object of process that it most truly is.
Now, of course,
We are the life that grows and lives and loves in the corpse of all that's come before.
Spitting out the voice, he is voicing modernity in a way, at least secular atheistic modernity. But of course, the good news in all of that is, well, without a God, there isn't a God that will muddle with us. Eric Weinstein, he had a little Discord server, and he was in a room there, and I dropped.
Ladies and gentlemen, a story of divine intervention.
With us, Eric Weinstein, he had a little Discord server, and he was in a room there, and I dropped in, and almost had a little interchange with him, but my headphone went out, and they basically to the effect of, well, the problem with God is that you don't know what's on his mind, and you'd better very well be worried about that. And part of the excitement about the death of God is that if there is no God and nor gods, then basically we can slide onto the throne and manage things for him to the degree that we have the power and the competence and the knowledge to manage the world.
Well, we've got a long way with that viewpoint. You know, that reductionist materialism has made us unbelievably powerful technologically, but The downside of that is that it's stripped the world of meaning, and that's produced a crisis of faith. And you might object, well, the world's necessarily been stripped of meaning, but...
Okay. I don't know that I'm gonna be able to get there. So let's just rehash, and I'll just spit it out. What we'll do is we'll do this. We'll throw this out there, see if anybody wants to come talk through it, and see if you can help me get there. I'll spit out as far as I can go. And did you switch to this stupid broken mic? Oh, you son of a dear.
It's not always that obvious just exactly what constitutes what's necessary. So, in the middle of this existential chaos, the false idol of apocalyptic ideology inevitably beckons. So what's that proposition? Well, you lose your traditional faith, your traditional religious faith. You still need an interpretive structure to guide you. And so what you might say is that, well, as the classic God of the monotheistic Western tradition collapses, then his polytheistic adversaries rise up to replace him.
ISIS!
You are bound.
Do you mean ISIS? Okay, so first to get there from here. The poem in the front, the quote in the front that Paul reads from the Ball Network Twitter, that's Doc Holliday. And if Doc Holliday was set rules, we get the, look, we're living in death, there's no meaning, but look at all this fancy stuff we can do with it. But really, it's characterized as an attempt to get revenge because Seth doesn't want to be here and he's mad for being born. Then we also have this ISIS problem, this polytheism coming up. And what ISIS does is she impregnates herself with the phallus of Osiris and gives birth to Horus, who does battle with Seth and plucks out his own eye, the eye of Horus, and puts it back into the Osiris so he can see again, right? So the eye of Horus is the Horus eye, and if you put the one eye, the single eye, on the cross, then you're looking at the dead, and if you put your eye on the Christ, then you're looking on the life, and so that's the difference between the Horcrux and the Horchrist, and that was the name of the stream. Dun 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 dun. So okay, everybody get it? Osiris is dead, and then Isis came in the polytheism, and now we build the eye of Horcrux. We build the Horchrist eye of Horus with the beholder, and we shove it into Osiris again. I hope that all makes sense, and if not, Gavin has come to help us make sense of it. Welcome aboard, Gavin. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
Look, Greek has an eyeball. From Horus to Horcruxin, nicely played. Nicely played. Did that make sense? Was it followable?
I'm a little bit slow, so the Horcrux, you're talking about we can have our eye on the cross, which is similar to our eye on the dead, or we can have our eye on the Christ. And
what makes life worth living? The fountain of life.
Okay. Would that be the difference between like when we're here and now, focusing our eye on the pain and the suffering versus focusing our eye on the good and the good that's in the world?
Well, blessed are the suffering, for they shall be comforted, right? So if you're in the situation where you're observing it, then if you had your eye on Christ, you would look to be there for the person suffering. And if you had the eye on the crux, you'd be like, what has caused this suffering? How can I eliminate it and destroy it?
It's interesting.
Is this related to the beggar and the fountain? Asks the third wave red pill. And I say to you, I have no idea. The beggar and the fountain are supposedly what Alan Moore disclaimed as being part of the Kabbalah before the one we have now. and like a previous instantiation frequency of the Kabbalah. It included the beggar and the fountain, and they're not part of it anymore. But that's all of that mystery I've been able to unlock, Red Pill. So if you have anything, bring it. You have anything? I do, like, I don't know, I resonate real hard with the beggar part. So. Oh, Nakama thinks she gets it. I don't know if Anselman, do you get it? You have to figure out what the cross means. Is that an accentuated you, Anselman? Or just you have to figure it out? I already know.
Yeah, when you share, I'm getting a peek at the way you see the world, right? And yeah,
I see the world in lots of different ways.
Yeah.
Like I went from like my new thing is, how do you get from waking up to being grateful you did? And because that's what every day is like. It's like, okay, I'm awake now. How do I get from here? Oh, like,
what's the next step? I'm awake.
Like, oh, I woke up here again. How do I get to gratitude for that from where I start this morning?
That's a really interesting way to wake up each morning.
That's the daily challenge. The daily challenge.
Another question is like, why should I get out of bed? Right? It's a similar question, perhaps.
So what do you think about Papa Peterson's arc?
Well, I hope. I'm not holding my breath, but I also think it has potential, right? But we're humans.
I think it's a trap, obviously. But
I mean,
ultimately, isn't he a priest of individuation?
A priest of individuation. What I noticed I listened to this morning because of Chad's video, and what I noticed is that he's an expert in the realm of psychology, and that's the thing that he's good at. He knows that there's a problem that we face as individuals that lead us into dark places, and we have to be careful as individuals, but we also need to be careful about the story we tell people. And so I think that's that was my kind of realization. It's like, that's why he's famous. That's the good he does with his expertise.
Well, like, let's look at this. I'm building an arc, like, because he's leaning on the Noah concept, surely, but he's also leaning into like life. Like, you aim at a redemptive arc, right? I hope my character arc is a redemptive one,
right?
And like, I think that's what he cries about, because he
that's what I cry about too.
Oh God, please let this be a redemptive arc,
please.
But to me, it's like, look, what should we do with this corpse? And it's Sethian. It's not enough. How do we revivify this? What are we doing it for? There's not enough of that in what I've detected. And so, like, my immediate suspicion that it was a Hegelian dialectic because of the way they came out opposing the WEF, right?
That struck my attention as well. Yeah. There's kind of like a simultaneous kind of condemning of always being in a crisis, and then you can juxtapose that with like trying to love your enemy. And if you try to love your enemy, you might see that the left are pointing out real problems, and they suggest some of these solutions, and then the arc itself is an attempt to answer, to provide an answer to the problem that the left is pointing at. I don't know if Jordan Peterson always gives the devil his due, even though he likes to use that phrase.
I'm more than certain that man gives the devil his due.
I mean, yeah. That's how we learn. I think that's how we'd get better.
But I don't know. I think we're better off revivifying the small town main squares by making them the hub of where the town connects to the internet. By like,
that's a part he's missing, I think. But like, he did mention the local. Like, the local is important, and he mentioned the wise among throughout society, whether it's the mother or I don't think he used the word, but I would say plumber, no matter who it is.
Well, yeah, you're going to want to recruit everybody you can recruit in your big recruitment drive, but
He knows subsidiarity is important. I just don't. When you mention internet, trying to bring the internet with it, I don't. That's the part that I don't think he realizes is as important as it is.
The blood black nothingness begins to spin.
Well, we will make mistakes and fail until we figure it out.
Okay, Gavin.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping me try to make sure that people understood what I meant. That I like feeling the difference between genius and insanity is the ability to communicate it to others. So you helped me make mine more communicable.
I try.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Do you have anything you want to say in conclusion?
I'm glad that you're here, Grimgrizz, doing this virtually not alone thing. I think it is very helpful for a lot of people. So, thank you.
You're quite welcome. Go away.
Bye-bye.
All of you go away. All of you go away. Thank you for being here. I hope they like it when you say things in the comment section. In case you didn't know. In case you didn't know.